Econ students, G here to talk about state and local taxes and spending. Well, how do local governments manage their money? Well, local governments manage their money in accordance with priorities set by elected local government officials. So much like the federal government, just on a smaller level. Local governments create budgets and collect taxes just like the federal government do. So let's talk about state budgets. Well, governments plan their spending by creating a budget. And the federal government has one budget while state governments have two budgets. An operating budget, which is the budget for day-to-day spending and needs, and a capital budget, which is spending on major investments. Unlike the federal government, 49 states require balanced budgets. Budgets in which revenues are equal to spending. Delaware requires a balanced budget. This is why they are making such large cuts in the budget. And I know currently with our current event situation, we noticed that they are trying to revitalize, revamp, and restructure the prison systems in the state of Delaware, and that if you checked out the governor's new budget, it cuts a tremendous amount of money, and people would automatically think that that's where it was going. However, if you look at the budget, you'll see that there is more money being put aside for that particular item. However, it does not equal the amount that are being cut from items such as education and transportation. Where are state taxes spent? Well, education is a big one. 1/3 of the state of Delaware's budget goes to education. So every state spends taxpayer money to support at least one public state university. We are lucky enough to have two, or three, actually three, because we have the University of Delaware, we have Delaware State University, and we have Delaware Technical Community College, so we have three. They also provide financial help to local governments for public elementary and secondary schools. So then we have public safety, and that's your state police to enforce traffic laws and help motorists in an emergency. And the state government builds and runs corrections systems, which has been a hot topic this year following the riots. Public welfare, so state funds support hospitals and clinics and unemployment benefits as well. We have highway and transportation, where state crews resurface roads and repair bridges. If you've gone anywhere around the state of Delaware, you'll notice that there are a lot of big changes. I know all the way from the beach up to here, there is construction on all the major highways, including my ride being disrupted on the way to work this morning since Route 1 was completely closed for a duration, both north and south. And if you continue past over even towards the Wilmington-Newark area, many of you on your bus rides have experienced detours and slowdowns based on the amount of construction that is going on. Also, states pay some of the cost of facilities like waterways and airports. Arts and recreation, so states fund parks. We have the Cape Henlopen State Park down at the beach. A lot of people enjoy spending their summers there. There's nature reserves, museums, and art and music programs. Then administration within itself, so state governments spend money to keep the government running, and revenues pay for state workers and salaries. So any state employee, that's where their salaries are coming from. So when we look at the spending patterns 2004 to 2005, state revenue key, and of course this is an average. When we look at the revenue itself, we see 13.4% of that came from income tax. Remember, you pay federal and state income tax. Corporate income tax was 2.4%. This is higher in the state of Delaware since we are kind of a tax haven for corporations, and we have a lower corporate tax rate, which encourages them to move their companies, even if it's just an office, to Delaware, so that they can claim this as their headquarters and thus get a tax break on it. Well, the benefit to us is that we get a larger portion of that tax bracket. Sales and excise tax going on gasoline and cigarettes and things like that is about 19%. Insurance trust revenues and intergovernmental revenue, of course, about 21.8% and 25% respectively. And we have property taxes, which is 0.7%, And that's pretty accurate in the state of Delaware, as we still run off of the property tax value from 1974. So if that goes up, I'm pretty sure some people may have a mild coronary if they see what their new tax bill would be that has not been brought up on the legislative floor at this point. However, with a giant push to balance the budget, we'll have to see. State spending keys. So when we want to see what they're spending, they spend on things like education, public welfare, hospitals, other health programs, Department of Corrections, natural resources, just basically running the government structure itself. Interest on debt. If they borrow money, they still have to pay the interest on it. Highways, all kinds of different things. And you notice intergovernmental revenue are one of the biggest spending areas, followed by that public welfare. States receive most of their revenue through taxes. Sales tax on goods and services is the main source of state revenue for many states. Not so much the state of Delaware, as we really don't have a sales tax. We have a tax when you buy a house, we have a tax when you buy a car, we have capital gains taxes, but we don't have the sales tax when you go to the store in other states and say, oh, there's a 6% sales tax like our neighbor, Maryland, and we can go to the store and if it says 99 cents, it's 99 cents. If it says $1.50, it's $1.50. If it says $200, we know it's $200. We don't have that taxation coming from there. And there are 5 states total that do not have sales tax. But in those states that have sales tax, some goods like food and clothing are exempt from taxation. Even states without a sales tax impose excise taxes that apply to specific products and activities. We do have taxes on cigarettes, alcohol, we have a gas tax, because those are things that we consider having negative externalities that we have to cover to clean up after in some shape or form. Many states also collect an individual income tax, which is paid in addition to federal income tax. Some states tax at a flat rate, while others have a progressive rate. Delaware does have a progressive rate, and that kicks in anything over $100,000 usually. Corporate income tax. Most states collect income tax from corporations that do business in their state, and we're extremely lucky because we have more of this, but generally in most states it's a small amount of tax revenue. Other taxes include licensing fees on certain businesses. If you want to put an LLC or any business fee, any business license in the state of Delaware, you're going to pay a fee $250 or more a year. Transfer taxes on stock certificates, of course, if you're buying and selling of stocks, there's taxes involved in that. Inheritance tax. Like I said, you can avoid federal income tax on inheritance if it's under $2 million, but in the states, you're not going to escape it. Property taxes, including real property and personal property, are included in that. So if you look at this, paying for our schools, school taxes make up the largest part of local taxes Americans pay across the country. Increases in school taxes have far outpaced the national rate of inflation. No one enjoys paying taxes, but schools will have to cut services if they're not funded. So sometimes you kind of get people to say, oh, I'll do it regardless, just because, it's for the betterment of mankind. Others are like, well, I don't have any kids going to the school, so why should I pay it? Schools taxes pay for a wide range of curricular and extracurricular activities, so then the schools have to make a decision, what can they cut, what can they not cut, and go from there. Local governments, including towns, cities, counties, and school districts, carry major responsibility in public school system, law enforcement, and fire protection, because you do have state police, but you also have local town police, you have charter schools, you have regular districts that have all the schools that cover their area, and of course fire protection. In our area, we do have the fire marshals, which are a paid position. You will have the head of each firehouse, the chief or captain, depending on the location. Those are normally paid positions. However, in where I live in Sussex County, all of the fire companies are volunteer based, and that's how generally most of the fire companies in the state of Delaware are. They also manage public facilities, parks and recreation facilities. They monitor public health, public transportation, the Department of Elections, record keeping, and social services. So when we look at spending, big ones up here, 34.3% is that revenue for property tax, and 35.5% of that is from intergovernmental revenue, followed by other taxes and charges. So generally, taxes are bringing in all the money, and they got to spend it out. And like I said, the biggest one right there is education. The state of Delaware is no different. And then 10.2% goes to utility. 13.9% is that other category, and the reason why that's so large is there's states have to vary, and it really depends on the location as to where they need to direct that money. Local governments levy property taxes, sales taxes, and excise taxes, and income taxes, so they have a lot of options. Many local taxes affect visitors and are designed to raise revenue from non-residents. So it's kind of funny because when people are coming into the state, they're like, oh my gosh, I just had to pay that $20 toll to get into your state. Actually, you're paying a $20 toll to get out of New Jersey, but we would love a portion of that. If you're coming down off the turnpike, we do have toll booths, and that does give us some revenue when it comes to that, and that will affect those who are traveling until they hit about Dover, because there's no more tolls after that in our state, just like the exits disappear once you get below Milford. To that more rural area, which is vastly different than Newark and Wilmington areas, and even, further south than that, before you get to Dover, and that's when it really starts to change over. So some places, wall-to-wall traffic jams, for example, are prompting a few cities to consider a congestion tax. I know definitely in the summer it's very difficult for me to get around where I live. So if we're going to wrap this up and bring it down to the facts are this. State governments have operating budgets for ongoing expenses and capital budgets for major investments. States rely mainly on sales tax and income taxes. Local governments use property taxes, income taxes, and other taxes to fund a variety of activities. Now, if we want to just generalize this in one sweeping statement, we're going to go state and local government must make careful decisions to balance spending and revenues. Well, that is all I have for you today on state and local taxes and spending.